Hello and welcome to MyFusion Helper. My name is Troy Broussard, and in this short video, I'm going to show you how to use our Dropbox It Helper. Now, this is an incredibly powerful feature and has a few options and some security concerns that we need to kind of walk you through. So I'm going to show you first how to create the helper inside of MyFusion Helper, and then we're going to also spend some time looking at how to set it up in Infusionsoft, which honestly is quite trivial, but we'll kind of go over that and how you might use it in your business. And then next, we're going to jump into some kind of use cases for how this might be applicable and how some of our clients are using this feature today and how you might consider using it as well. Now, the first thing that we really need to look at is getting the app authorized on your account. So I've already set this up and configured it, but when you go to create your first helper, you're going to see a screen that looks just like this, where you're going to see our app and it's going to request permission to get access to your Dropbox account. Now, you'll see that it works with multiple accounts. So, for example, here I have a personal account as well as a business account, and it'll just present you with a choice and allow you to choose and select between them. It's very simple, one click, and it's installed and updated. But if you do not grant it permission to your Dropbox account, then obviously it's not going to be able to work for you. All right, so let's look at the rest of the configuration. Okay, so back inside of MyFusion Helper now, and we're going to go ahead and create this. Now again, you would see that setup screen on the very first time. I'm going to go ahead and select Dropbox. Now don't worry about the beta tag, it's just that we hide them until these videos are done, so you'll not see that on yours. And we'll go ahead and give it a Dropbox It and give it a name and click Configure. And then let's kind of walk through some of this and how you use it. Now you see here, you can add an additional Dropbox account if you want. You can select from the accounts that are set up. So I'll pull one in. And then you select the folder that you want to use. Now you can do here, I'm just going to go ahead and use one of these little folders that I have that has some intros and outros and some sound clips and stuff in it. And the next thing that we want to look at, and largely for you, this is probably going to be like a clients folder. You'll probably want to create a new folder that is empty, and this is where you're going to store all of the individual client share folders as a subfolder of this, okay? So I'm using intros, outros, sound just as an example, but more than likely, you're probably going to create a folder called clients. Okay, now this next feature, number 3 here, is really, really important because it's super, super powerful. And that is the ability to create a template and link it up to all of your shares. So what this means is, what is a template? Well, a template is a folder that has any number of files and even subfolders and any amount of data in it. There's no restrictions. And it really is just going to be cloned into any of the shares that you create through this app. So let's just say that for your particular service that you have several different PDFs and contracts of information that you provide your clients. And so maybe they're templated contracts that they can use in their business or something like that. And you want to provide an easy way for them to access it. Well, you would set that up as a template. And now every share that you create when somebody purchases your product and it creates this automatically, it's going to automatically link all of those files into their private share. Okay, this is very, very powerful. It gives you the ability to replicate and copy data into your individual client's shares simply and easily. So on this particular one, let's just say I wanted to put all of my lower thirds into a folder that all of my clients would get. They purchase some sound or video editing product here, and I'm giving them a bunch of lower third bonus video clips, for example. Okay, so that would be kind of an example. Now, you want to select a field where you're going to save this folder link to inside of Infusionsoft. So this is going to be just a link field, and typically, this is where you're going to use to merge in your emails and send a link to your client. Hey, we've just set up this share for you in Dropbox. Here's the link to it, etc. Right? And later, if you want a direct link to files, you can do stuff like that with it as well. So I'm going to put this in just a custom field I've got called location, and we'll throw that or throw that in there. And then we want to give a naming structure. So remember that this is storing all of these client folders inside of your Dropbox. And so as I used in the example of saying you might want to create a folder called clients, well, underneath that clients folder, you're probably going to want to have, a naming structure for each of the folders for your individual clients. So perhaps you do something like you type the @ here and do something like company name and then maybe ID for the contact ID. That might be a naming structure. Or, perhaps you do last name and then ID, right? Whatever you want to do, you can put that in. If you have a custom field for a client number that you want to access or anything you want, just keep in mind that that's going to become the folder in the operating system. And so if you want it to sort a particular way, then make sure and name it that way. If you want it to sort by last name first, then put the last name first. If you want to look it up by the ID first, you might want to put the ID first instead. Okay, so that's a real simple setup here. And next, let's kind of talk about these individual permissions and kind of how they work. Now, what you'll note is that we set up the defaults that we recommend. And honestly, for 90% of you, you can just leave it at that and you'll be good to go. We try to make this stuff easy for you guys. But we also want it to be powerful enough that you have control. Now, a private versus a shared folder type. Private just means that the only person that's going to have access to it is you through your Dropbox account. So you're not going to be able to share information with your clients if you set up a private folder. Now, you may have a perfectly good reason for that. You may be just setting up for yourself and being able to link to it through Infusionsoft and get right into your client folder, and maybe you don't want to share it with them. And that's totally fine. But more than likely, you're probably doing Dropbox because you want to share information with your clients. And so the default option would be using the shared option. Okay, the next setting here, number 6, is the shared folder member policy. Now, what this controls is who can gain access to the files. When you share them with a client, okay, if they have a Dropbox business account, for example, and they have a team, you can restrict it to just that team, or you can open it up to anyone. And, recommended on this is anyone, but if you want to restrict to teams, you can do that. It just kind of depends on your client's configuration, but the easiest solution and recommendation here is to just leave it at anyone, okay, that has that share information. Now, lastly, it's the access control policy. And that's a lot of verbiage, but what it really means is just who can go out and share this again, right? Who can control the settings for the share and that kind of stuff. And almost always you're going to want to leave this as the owner, which means that you control the policies and the share restrictions on this. Very few times are you going to want to really allow your client or other editors to have access to change that around. So generally you're going to leave that at the option we've selected. Okay, so all of these permissions are documented within Dropbox. If you have any questions, take a look at those files first within Dropbox or reach us on the help desk. But like I said, 90% of the time, you're just going to want to leave these default settings. At that point, you would simply create the helper. So we can just go ahead and create this. And then we're going to get that link that we use inside of Infusionsoft. So we're going to get a copy link here. And we're going to go into Dropbox, and this is really easy to do. You're going to have some type of sequence that you're going to run, and I showed a purchase goal because a lot of times when people are going to use this Dropbox is for fulfillment. So somebody just makes a purchase and you want to send them out a welcome email and say, hey, we've got a whole bunch of resources and templates and PDFs for you for the product you just bought, and here's a link to a Dropbox share where we've installed all of these files for you for your convenience. Okay, and so that's kind of the scenario that you may use. Of course, if you want to do it differently and use a tag goal to kick things off, that's perfectly fine too. And then we can go in here, and all we have to do is, just like any of the other helpers in MyFusion Helper, we drag an HTTP post snippet, we double click on that, and we paste in our helper ID. We set it to ready, and we would come back out and set the sequence to ready, and all you would have to do now is publish it, and you would be good to go. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back into the presentation and just kind of talk of some of the use cases with this and how you can put this to use inside of your business. Now, one of the things that is probably most popular is delivering training resources, checklists, swipe files, documents, those types of things, right? Just as I showed you as a purchase fulfillment type delivery mechanism. Now, other things that can be very useful is like professional service firms that have standard templates and contracts, or maybe you're selling a training program that you provide sample contracts for them that they can modify, and so you maybe want to give them a bunch of Word docs or things like that, which can be really cumbersome to distribute through Infusionsoft. This creating a share and just giving them a link to their share is a really, really simple way of doing that. Some other things that can be very powerful are when you get into collaborative design type projects and service fulfillment for that, where you have really high resolution images, or like I said in the last one here, a large digital asset fulfillment. So things like HD video or high resolution images, things like that. They can be very, difficult to try to transfer any of those files in any way online. And so just simply sharing them inside of a Dropbox through your Infusionsoft can be a very simple, elegant solution for large media types. All right, that's a wrap for this video. This is Troy Broussard, and if you need any help, just reach us out on the help desk at help@myfusionsolutions.com.